It's a nice thing that Arale got a second chance. That first cameo was not nearly enough. Hello there, beautiful friends, I am Blackenfist. Dragon Ball Super finally does Arale justice by actually giving her more than just a couple seconds of screen time. A whole episode dedicated to her and really the cast of Dr. Slump, although most of the focus is of course on her Arale and her creator Dr. Slump himself. One thing that I think perfectly captures the spirit of Dr. Slump and how this episode is going to go in general is that after the main opening, there's a tiny mini opening for the Dr. Slump characters. This has been, I think, customary for essentially ever since Dr. Slump merged with Dragon Ball. In the Dragon Ball manga, when the Dr. Slump characters were introduced, it was as if they were in Dr. Slump, not Dragon Ball, and that was kind of the same back in Dragon Ball when they first did their cameo in the anime. This is no different, and it seems that Dragon Ball Super keeps that tradition going. We are then assaulted by one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen, which is Goku sporting a hairstyle other than the one that we have known him ever since his conception. It was kind of weird seeing Goku gel his hair into a shape that it usually is not. Thank goodness his hair did go back into its original state. But seeing that is quite weird, and also I'll have to say seeing Goku have a job as a bodyguard is also a very strange thing to say, but I would have complained a little bit more about these two things, even though they are nitpicks. However, considering the very nature of this episode, it has to slide. There's no way. There's too many zany things that are going to happen in this episode for this to be really a problem. It turns out that Goku is a bodyguard at a science competition that Mr. Satan himself is the one hosting. Bulma's family is in attendance, and one thing that I honestly was a little disappointed by this whole episode is that we didn't get to see Bulma's entry in the contest. I would have liked to have seen what she would have brought to the table, but oh well. I mean, okay, she's there, of course she has to be there being the scientist type. But it turns out Dr. Slump won with his invention, and in true Dr. Slump fashion, it's a completely zany and wacky invention that makes things appear just from the very thoughts of the person using it. The party, however, is crashed by Dr. Slump's eternal rival, Dr. Masherito. Turns out that he's come back from the dead in order to invent an elixir that increases the desire of children wanting to play by 100 times. This is definitely something that would come out of a Dr. Slump manga. And speaking of the Dr. Slump manga, Dr. Slump himself points out that he died in the manga, so how is it that he came back? Of course, he said he escaped hell and everything, but in all honesty, he really didn't even need an explanation, considering that this episode repeatedly breaks the fourth wall. Interestingly, because Arale did drink this elixir, that makes her an antagonist and makes her, already the very playful Arale, even more playful, which could spell pretty disruptive and even perhaps dangerous. And of course, since Vegeta is in attendance, we just had to see the clash of these two. Unfortunately, Vegeta did underestimate the little Arale getting thrown out of the science fair right in Goku's wheelhouse. This is when it is established that Goku and Arale do recognize each other from all those years back in Dragon Ball, as this is not the first time they met. This is not really the first time that Arale has appeared in Dragon Ball. She first appeared in Dragon Ball back in the Red Ribbon Army arc when Goku was going against General Blue. This is where one of the issues gets illuminated for me, because obviously we knew that Vegeta and Arale, and definitely Goku and Arale, were going to fight. And considering the fact that Goku and Vegeta are godlike beings essentially, because they are, how is it that Arale is going to pose a legitimate threat? Because logically, these two guys should completely restrain her pretty easily, considering the power gap between them. However, the answer to this and the solution was actually very clever because of the fourth wall breaking jokes. Because they already broke the fourth wall multiple times, even referencing Dr. Slump the manga itself, they reference the fact that Arale is a gag character manga and that Goku and Vegeta fighting shonen type of a manga, and those styles kind of clash. Not only is this a very clever way of having Arale actually do some wacky things and actually punch Vegeta up into the sky like a cartoon character would, and there's no legitimacy lost on the part of Vegeta or Goku if they actually got tossed around by Arale, because essentially they're facing Bugs Bunny. This is essentially the closest thing we're ever going to have Bugs Bunny in Dragon Ball, which is Arale in this kind of fashion. And that is exactly what she did. She tosses Vegeta around, Sorry, Vegeta fans. And of course, Goku powers up to Super Saiyan Blue to take on Arale. It's wackiness versus seriousness. Who's gonna win? Unfortunately, their fight was short-lived because Bulma had other plans to get Beerus involved. And how is it that you attract a god of destruction? Well, of course, through his stomach. That's the way they've been getting his attention all this time anyway. And they got the best invention there to do it. Bulma points a camera toward Dr. Slump's invention, telling everyone from around the world to think of the most delicious food that you can. As soon as this food comes into existence, Beerus awakes from his sleep, already sensing the tastiness of the morsel. And then something happens that I might have complained under other circumstances. Whis immediately travels to Earth almost in an instant. Now, I think that it's been pretty well established that it takes a while. I mean, not like too long, but it does take like a couple minutes for Whis to arrive on his own. I think that was pretty well established in the Resurrection F arc when Goku needed to use the instant transmission to get there in time before Frieza could do any more damage to, you know, the Earth or kill anyone else unnecessarily. It was definitely established pretty strongly there that Whis can't instant transmission, because if he did, he would have done it right there. But he does it anyway. I mean, they do have a throwaway line where Whis says, "I've never come here so fast." But considering the nature of this episode, it's honestly, I think it's justifiable, and probably one of the few times to say that it's justifiable to let it slide. When Beerus does arrive, he reveals he has another power, being able to destroy gag characters, which I'm not sure will come in handy in the future. Maybe it will. If that's the case, does Monaka count? I mean, that's a kind of a serious question, because if you really think about it, Monaka kind of was a gag character. Like, the whole thing he was. I mean, that character was a gag. Like Launch. Like Launch being able to sneeze between two personalities. That kind of was Monaka, so I don't know. Just a thought. But I thought it really was cool that it was stated outright that the God of Destruction can indeed destroy anyone or anything. He moves his attention toward Arale, and just as he was about to destroy her, seems that tasty morsel hits him hard. Just in the nick of time. It really seemed that maybe Beerus' presence wasn't needed, but at the end, does it really matter? I thought this episode was absolutely great. In terms of filler episodes, this is the way I think filler episodes should go. And it's quite funny too, because my complaint about the last episode is that not much happened in that episode. But you could say the same thing about this one. In fact, you could say even less happened in this episode in terms of the continuation of the characters in the story, because at least in the last episode, the time machine was destroyed, which is something that has far-reaching consequences that, you know, go beyond just that one episode. But this one has even less, but the one thing it does have is an actual sense of humor, sense of character, a sense of diving into the lives of these characters, which is one thing I always love in Dragon Ball, just diving in to the daily lives of the characters, it could be mundane tasks, but the fact that these guys are essentially gods and superhumans, and these guys are not normal, even Bulma is not a normal person, just seeing them do mundane tasks can be very interesting. And on top of that, it's just layered on with looniness, with the looniness of the Dr. Slump world and the Dr. Slump characters. So it was a very entertaining episode, which is way more than I can say than the previous episode. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts of this episode. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, because I'll be bringing you more videos like this one. And until next time, guys, I'm Blackenfist.